Welcome, great minds. We'll be looking at levels of organization of life, where we have the cells to the tissues, from the tissues to the organ, from the organ to system, and from system to organism. That's what makes living things to be in two groups: the unicellular organisms and the multicellular organisms. We'll also be looking at binomial nomenclature and also complexity. Still your teacher, Mr. Omotosho. Listen attentively as we go through this topic. Now, the first level of all living organisms is the cell. So, the presence of cell makes every living organism to be alive. So, that is why cell is defined as the smallest unit of life. So the cell is what is the smallest unit of life. The second one there is the tissues. So the tissues is defined as what? As a group of similar cells that works together to perform a specific function. So when similar cells, when they combine together, they form an aggregate, they form a group, and this group of new cells, they now work together to perform a specific function. So that is the aspect of the tissues. So from there, we now move on to what? To organs. So in the aspect of organs, it is said to be what? A group of similar tissues. So remember we talk about what? The tissues, we say is a group of similar cells. So when similar cells, they come together and perform a specific function in the body of organism, that's referred to them as what? As tissues. The same thing is applicable to what? To organs. So when similar tissues, when they combine together, when similar tissues, when they come together, when they form a connection, when they coordinate themselves together to perform a specific organ, that's when to perform a specific function, rather, that's we refer to them as what? As organ. So in that aspect, when a group of similar tissues, different tissues in the body, when they come together to perform just a solitary function, just a function in the body of a living thing, that similar tissues, they are called what? The organ. Do you get that now? So we've talked about the cell, which is what? The smallest unit of life. We've talked about the tissue. We talked about what? The group of cells working together. We've talked about organ, which is what? A group of tissues working together. Now we want to talk about what? The system. So in this aspect of system, it is also what? A group of similar organs. When multiple organs, when they come together, when they coordinate together, when they work together to perform a specific function in the body, that we now have what? A system. That is why in the aspect of system in the body, we have what? Respiratory system. We have digestive system. So under digestive system, we have different organs coming together to form what? To form just one system in the body. Even in digestive system, we have what? Various organs, and organs comes as a result of what? Various tissues, and tissues come as a result of what? Various cells. So when all these things, when they coordinate together to perform a specific function, is what we refer to as what? The system. And when the whole entire system, combination of different systems, when they come together to make an individual, that's now what? Organisms. So organism is said to be what? An individual that combine of what? The cell, the tissue, the organ, the system. So the cell is seen as what? As student. The classroom is seen as what? As a tissue. The organ is seen as grade levels in school, that is class A, class B, and the whole system is seen as what? As the whole entire school. So that's what a typical example coming to our school settings. Now we have binomial nomenclature. Bi means two, nomia means what? Name. Nomenclature is what? System of naming. So bringing these words together, we cannot say binomial nomenclature is the system of giving two names to organisms. The system of what? Of giving two names to organisms. That's the definition of binomial nomenclature. And two names are given to organism. The first one is the genus, and the second one is the species. So in the species, a group of organisms that can reproduce to produce fertile offspring. That is, they can interbreed with each other. That's when I talk about what? Species. So in that aspect, the two names that are given to organism is, the first one is gotten from the genus, and the second one is gotten from the species. Now let's take a hierarchical order of classification of life. The first one is what? The kingdom. We have the phylum, we have the class, we have the order, we have the family, we have the genus, and we have the species. That is the what? The hierarchy of classification of what? Of living things. So now let's try to classify human being according to what? To this hierarchy of classification. All human beings belong to the kingdom animals. They belong to the phylum Chordate. Why? Because they have notochord, they have spinal cord. They belong to the class mammals. Why? Because their body is covered with what? With hair. They belong to order of primates, family of Hominidae, genus of Homo, and species of Sapiens. That is why in the scientific name or in the binomial nomenclature of man, man is regarded as what? As Homo sapiens. Remember I said the scientific name or binomial nomenclature is gotten from two names, the genus and the species. Now looking at this, we have some rules that guides nomenclature. The first one is the first letter must be in capital letter, and all others must be small. Now looking at the example on the screen, the H there is capital letter, which is marked correct, but the S is capital letter, which is wrong. That one has negate the rule of what? Of binomial nomenclature. Looking at second example also, the H starts with capital letter, the S starts with small letter. No, it is wrong. Why? Because it is not underlined, neither is it in what? In italic form. And the third one, we have the capital H and we have the small h. And what makes it right is because it is written in what? In italic form. So in the rules of writing binomial nomenclature, it is either it is written in italic form or it is underlined separately. So that is one of the rules of what? Of writing binomial nomenclature of living organisms. So we now want to talk about what? The binomial nomenclature of organisms. Remember I said the first name is gotten from genus, which can also be called the generic name. And the second name is called what? The species, which is also called what? The specific name. So the first name is the generic name, and the second name is the specific name, which is gotten from what? From species. Now let's take an example of a butterfly, where the scientific name is Danaus pepsipus. Now the first one is the genus name goes first. and the genius name is what is capitalized. That is, the first letter in the genius name is what is capitalized, just like what we see in what in Daniel's. And the third rule is species name is never capitalized, just like when we say in Persepolis. Now this, and the fourth one is what the entire name is italicized or underlined separately. Now we move on to complexity. In the aspect of complexity, it talks about what how organisms increase in what in size, in the number of cells, which brings about what an increment in how they function, which brings about an increment in their what in their efficiency. So that's what complexity. And we'll also be talking about what advantages and disadvantages of complexity. Number one, advantage of complexity. It results into specialization of tissues, organs, or system, which therefore result into what? Into high efficiency. When an organism range from just ordinary unicellular organism to multicellular organism, it brings about what? Efficiency. Number two is what there is always division of labor among part of what the body, which ensures efficiency. So the stomach will perform its function, the liver will perform its function, the kidney will also perform its function, and a part of the body function does not adversely affect other body function. So if the kidney performs its function, it does not adversely affect the other part. An organism can live in different habitats. So for the fact that there's complexity, it results into what? Into differentiation in habitats. And the last one is reproduction does not lead to what? Disintegration of what? Of parents. Like the importance of reproduction is what? For continuity of life. So when there's reproduction, new organism does not separate, does not disintegrate from its parents. Now we have the disadvantage or problems of complexity. Number one, it needs special system to transport materials such as gas, food, and the second one is that it requires more food. Why? Because when there's complexity, the organism what they increase in size and it requires more food to perform daily metabolic activities. I hope we've learned from this lesson. Here we talk about organization of life, where we have the cell, the tissue, the organ, and the system. We've talked about binomial nomenclature. We've talked about definition of complexity, advantage and disadvantage of complexity. Till we see in our next class. Bye for now.